Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Book Club. I'm Gustavo Tolosa, the host and the creator of this online book club, and we are reading Dr. Neil Barnard's book, which is Reversing Diabetes. So, thank you for joining me today. And today I have a guest who's going to join us soon. It's going to be exciting. And I'm also going to start today's session with a very simple but delicious recipe from the book, so that by the time the book club is done, it will be ready and I can try it. This recipe is on page 201, and it is called tender barley cornbread. So I don't know about you, but living in Texas for most of my life, I love cornbread, and especially if it's whole food plant-based, and especially with a wonderful bowl of chili or black bean soup or something like that. So I'm going to do something which probably shouldn't do, which is try a recipe that with some changes without having tried it before. So I hope that it will turn out okay. I have tried this recipe twice, the way it's described in the book here, but today I'm going to do a variation. What I think the recipe for this cornbread is delicious, and it's from the book, and so people with diabetes can certainly have it. Don't eat all of it at once, but you can have it. And what didn't I like? I guess. I mean, I liked it, but it was a little too sweet for me, okay? It has 2 tablespoons of sugar in this recipe, so I'm going to change it to 1. And I could not get my hands on barley flour, so I'm going to use oat flour. I have tried it with rice flour, but if you can find barley flour, please use that because that's in the recipe. Okay, what else am I going to change here? I like the cornbread to be a little taller, a little thicker, so I'm going to put a little bit more baking powder, and I'm also going to add a can of cream of corn, or it could be just corn if you want. And I'm going to add some chopped jalapenos. So I don't know. We'll see how it comes out. So here we go. What do I have in this bowl? In this bowl, I have 3/4 cup of yellow cornmeal, 1/2 cup of barley flour. If you can't find it, use oat flour. That's what I'm using. 1/3 cup of whole wheat flour, either regular or pastry. Okay, so that's what I have here. What else do I have? I have 1 tablespoon of sugar. It calls for 2, but I'm going to try with 1. 3 teaspoons of baking powder. It calls for 2, but I'm putting 3. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and that I did that. And 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. It calls 1/4, but I put 1/2. Okay, so all of that is here. And what I'm going to do is mix it really well. So this is mixed really well, all the dry ingredients. And so now what do I need to add? 1 cup of plant milk. This is almond milk. It calls for reduced fat soy milk, but I just don't like soy that much. And nothing against it, okay? I'm just not crazy about it. But it does call for soy milk, and I'm using almond milk. So what else? Well, we need to add to this 1/4 cup of unsweetened applesauce. 1/4 cup, which is right here. And I made this applesauce myself, just with apples, and putting it in the Instant Pot. So that's, I know for a fact that it is sugar-free. It's only apples. It doesn't have anything else. So what else? It calls, that's it for the real recipe in this book. But what am I going to add to this now? I'm going to add my chopped jalapenos. It's probably a it's a tablespoon. And just to give it a little extra heat, okay? And now I'm going to add 3/4 cup of cream of corn, or you could use just regular corn. I'm just going to try the cream and see how it comes out. So I'm going to mix this really well. While I'm mixing it, just a little review from last week. We learned a very important lesson last week, which is that diabetes really important issue is fat, the fat that accumulates inside our cells and that doesn't let the insulin and do the job that it needs to do, and so that the glucose can get inside our cells for energy. Very important lesson. So, all right. It is all very well mixed. Let's see if I can show you a little better here. And what I'm going to do is use this silicone pan. I had bought it and never used it, so I'm going to use it today. I was using a square glass pan. It says to use an 8x8 non-stick baking pan, and but I'm using this one, and we'll see how it comes out. I just like to try different things. So I'm going to show you here how this is the microphone. Okay, let's see. There you go. Let's put this here, and it's going to go in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. You have to check it with a toothpick or a knife to make sure that it comes out dry. And that will be it. We will smooth it a little bit on the top. The oven needs to be at 425, so it's rather hot. And do that. And that's it. Today I'm wearing my informal shirt here or hoodie, and this is going to the oven. So hold on just a minute and I will be right back. All right, so it's 12 here in my time zone. It is 2:15 p.m. and so I need to check the time. I'm gonna check it in 15 minutes and see how it is. At about that time, our guest will join us. Our guest today will be my dear friend, Katherine Lawrence from Food Saved Me. I hope that you have been able to see some of the videos that we filmed together or that you have visited her website, foodsavedme.com, because her story is truly powerful. And she has been working with Dr. Barnard for several years. She works with him closely. She has a beautiful, beautiful facility in Texas, more or less near, well, nothing is near in Texas, but about, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes from my house. And where she does cooking, she has this amazing kitchen, really amazing, beautiful kitchen for cooking demonstrations, and for filming and to do classes and workshops. So she does classes all the time, in person. I think she has started, or online, and I hope that you will watch some of them. But she will be here in a few minutes, and she will tell us about what her experience has been with the plan with Dr. Neil Barnard and people using this program for diabetes, for reversing it, controlling it, and reversing it. And you can ask her questions. Okay, so she knows so much about diabetes, and I think you will enjoy it. So today we're reading chapter 3, and it's not very long, so we will start it. And when I see Katherine log in, I will welcome her and we'll chat. Okay. So chapter 3 talks a lot about diabetes type 1 and the risks. I am on page 30. The risks of diabetes is the heart, the damage of, that it does to the heart and to the blood vessels. In fact, cardiovascular disease is basically, it strikes the majority of people with type 1 diabetes. We now have a better understanding than ever before about how to use diet and lifestyle changes to protect the heart, not only for people with diabetes, but for anyone. So what are some of the key elements that someone with type 1 diabetes really wants to watch out for? On page 30 and 31, and it says a healthy diet. So this book is pretty much about that. So we won't go into detail, but we have learned so far that a diet that is low in fat, especially saturated fats, and high in fiber, nutrients, and water, that excludes all animal products, is the ideal. So that's the healthy diet, which we will continue to discuss during our book club. And then it says no smoking. If you smoke, now it's the time to stop. If you have tried 50 times, it is time to try 51. You can and you will succeed. Ask your doctor to help you. So it is very important that if you have type 1 diabetes, well, I mean, it's very important that you don't smoke, period, but especially if you have type 1 diabetes and or heart disease. Regular exercise is something else. Even modest exercise, such as daily walking, makes a big difference. See your doctor, who will assess your heart, your joints, and your overall health to make sure you're ready for exercise. And then it says chapter 11, see chapter 11 for ways to get started. Another thing to take into consideration is stress management. And stress affects your health directly, causing fight or flight hormones to flood into your bloodstream. In turn, these hormones typically raise your blood sugar. Stress also disrupts your eating routines and interferes with sleep. So stress is not a good thing, and you want to find ways to manage it. Getting a handle on stress does not mean stepping back from the challenges of life. It means finding ways to enjoy life fully without letting stress get out of control. There are many healthy ways to relax, including medication, yoga, and even simple breathing exercises. All right, so on page 32, we have a new understanding of the causes of type 1 diabetes. And his Dr. Barnard says, although genes play a role, it is clear that type 1 diabetes is not simply a genetic disease. Something else triggers it. Basically, you can have the genes, and the genes can be there dormant, but something will trigger and will activate these genes, and that is diet, what we eat. For many years, researchers have known that type 1 diabetes occurs when the immune system attacks and destroys the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. Your immune system, of course, is your defense against viruses, bacteria, and cancer cells. It is not supposed to attack your own healthy body tissues, but that is exactly what occurs in type 1 diabetes. So in type 1 diabetes, it's different from type 2 because your own body is attacking its own cells and the ability of the pancreas to produce insulin. If you have type 1 diabetes, on page 33, it says your body has made a major error or mistake. It has attacked and destroyed your insulin-producing cells, resulting in what scientists call an autoimmune disease. The question here is, but why? Why does this happen? So back in 1992, a team of Canadian and Finnish researchers reported an important discovery in the New England Journal of Medicine. This is a very prestigious medicine journal. And so it's important that we know that this information is out there for doctors. Examining blood samples from 142 children newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, they found that each of the children had antibodies that were primed to attack cow's milk proteins. These antibodies had apparently arisen in response to cow proteins in their infant formula. But the antibodies were also capable of attacking the body's insulin-producing cells. It turned out that a portion of the cow's milk protein was biochemically an exact match for a portion of human insulin-producing cells. The antibodies that arose to destroy the cow's milk protein ended up attacking the children's insulin-producing cells. The pancreas cells were destroyed by friendly fire. And what an incredible discovery and study that we have here, that I believe is continuing up to today, really researching the connection between dairy in children's consumption and then the connection with the development of type 1 diabetes. So this study and others suggested a scenario that could lead to type 1 diabetes. The study suggested that one way to prevent type 1 diabetes, at least for many children, might be to avoid exposure to cow's milk early in life. Needless to say, in the early 1990s, neither parents nor pediatricians had any idea about this. Cow's milk formulas were routinely fed to infants, and they still are. Dr. Barnard, with other doctors, at one point, they called for an end to recommendations that push milk consumption on children and said that parents should have good information in order to decide what to feed their children. And of course, this was controversial and is still being debated. The controversy did not end here. There was only one way to know whether dairy proteins could actually incite the series of events leading to type 1 diabetes. The theory had to be put to test. A European team began the process. So on page 34, we have the description of a pilot study done in Finland, Sweden, and Estonia with 242 newborns at risk for developing type 1 diabetes. So the researchers then encouraged their mothers to breastfeed. When mothers were ready to wean their infants, the researchers asked half to use a specially modified baby formula in which dairy proteins were broken up into individual amino acids, protein building blocks that are too small to elicit an immune reactions. The other families were allowed to use a regular cow's milk formula. The research aimed to see whether avoiding exposure to intact cow's milk proteins could reduce the likelihood of developing diabetes. So what happened? The study was small, only a pilot trial, but it did follow most of the children throughout their first 6 to 8 years of life. During those years, several children developed diabetes. Of those receiving unmodified formula, 8 developed the disease. And in the modified formula group, 5 developed it. As it turned out, 2 of those 5 had dropped out of the study right at the start and never actually received the modified formula. If you can hear me, Katherine, you would have to click on the little icon that looks like a microphone. And then right to the left of that icon, there is a camera. Oh, there you go. So, oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Oh, welcome, first of all. Welcome. And I'm sorry about what's happened today.
Yeah, she's old, and I'm not ready to think about it yet. So.
No, let's not. Let's. Well, I don't want to take much of your time today.
It's okay.
So, I want to introduce everyone here to Katherine Lawrence. I've already told them a little bit about you. Since you're not at your office, of course, the internet might not be the best, but that's okay. The important thing is that we can see you and hear you. Katherine, tell us just a little bit about your background. Just.
Well, I used to be an aerospace engineer when I got sick about 16 years ago, and that's what prompted me to start learning nutrition and really look into diet and change my diet. And my nutritionist and I were able to heal my body, and so I didn't need all of the surgeries and everything that I was told. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. And you and I made a video last year about your story. So if anybody wants, is interested, that is in your website, or isn't it? I'm not sure.
Yes, it is. It's the first video there.
It's the first video. Okay. And I was telling people to visit your website, foodsafedme.com, because you also have many other things. Are you doing in-person classes at the moment, or online? What is going on?
We are. Actually, we just started this past month. We had so many requests from students to start doing more in person. I think people are ready for that support, and they like trying the food in person. So we're back in person, and coming up with some new topics and things. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, that's great to know. I will send when this replay goes out, I'll send people your information, and that way, if they live in the area, they could attend these in-person classes. Okay. So I think I told you that we're reading in this book club. We're reading this book.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And today we were reading chapter 3. Last week we discussed type 2 diabetes. Today we were talking about type 1 diabetes and the unfortunate, just this connection that a lot of people don't know, the connection between cow's milk and young children, and how can help in developing type 1 diabetes in young children. So, but I was interested in asking you, you have been working with Dr. Neil Barnard now for a few years, right?
Yeah, about I think 11 years. Yeah.
11. Wow. Okay.
He's amazing. I just continue learning so much from him.
He is a wonderful, not only doctor, but a wonderful person, as I'm sure you know.
Absolutely. Yes, he is.
So tell us a little bit about your experience because I think that you teach some classes that go with the information in this book, and you teach people how to make meals, and you give them the information, and I'm interested to know any stories or any things you can share with us about things that you have seen there firsthand.
Oh, sure.
Have you if you have people with diabetes have attended these workshops and classes, and what just tell us your experience with this.
Well, I've been teaching the Food for Life program on diabetes for about 10 years now. It's one of my longest running classes, and it's also one of the most popular, and I've seen amazing things from it. I probably taught a couple thousand, and most of diabetics, most of the students who attend are either type 1 or type 2, or they have a spouse or partner that is. And it's really, at first it was kind of heartbreaking when I started teaching the class, because I realized how different the information is taught to patients through the hospital system when they're first diagnosed with diabetes. And then when students are in the class, and we use this textbook, this is the crux of our class. We're basically covering the nutrition information, watching Dr. Barnard's video on diabetes. I think it's a PBS special. And then I demonstrate some recipes and they eat those. But every time I teach the class, there's this like veil that's kind of lifted over the students, where they realize, oh, the difference between what I'm taught. What I'm taught about diabetes is not really designed to reverse my diabetes or stop it from progressing. And they can kind of see that traditional approach can maybe slow the progression, but it doesn't stop it. And so one thing that's very different about Dr. Barnard's approach that I think is so powerful for our students is that there's no carb counting and there's no portion control. and he says it a lot in the video too. If you're hungry, you're not eating enough. And so for some people, I think initially they might look at these dietary recommendations and go, oh my gosh, that's so hard, or that's so restrictive. But then when they realize, oh my gosh, I'm not carb counting, I'm not doing portion control, that is just freeing for people. And they realize that is so much easier to follow his simple 3 recommendations. And it's really those first 2 that are the most important. Just following those 2, and they can eat as much as they want. It's really fascinating. So I actually do have a lot of stories. Some of them. So one of my first students was my uncle. He had type 2 diabetes for 39 years. So he was just like living with it. And it was, he was exercising. He was doing what he was told was eating healthy, like eating lots of salmon and healthy oils and things like that. But it wasn't getting any better, right? And he was pretty much a healthy weight. And so when I cooked, when I had him come to my first class, this is Jerry, Uncle Jerry. And he's one of those great students. He just dove right in. He said, okay, I'm going to do everything the book is saying and give it a try. And within 8 months, Gustavo, 8 months, he was able to work. You have to work with your doctor, completely get off of his medication and reverse his type 2 diabetes. And he is one of those in the beginning that thought, oh, this is going to be so hard. But once he did it, he just got addicted to how he was feeling. And when he could kind of see that light at the tunnel where the doctor was lowering his medications, I think he just got hooked on it. So within 8 months, he was completely off his diabetes medication for type 2, and it was fantastic. I have another story. We also have a lot of type 1 diabetics take the class, and what's interesting is they're always there for someone else because they have this perception that diet doesn't affect type 1 diabetes, and they're just stuck with it forever. And I think a lot of the public has that too. Like, oh, type 2, you can do something. Type 1, you're just kind of stuck forever. But this information is actually very powerful. And I've seen it health-wise with type 1 diabetics, but also money-wise. So I want to share a story about Christopher. He was probably 31 maybe when he took the class, and type 1 diabetic. I think he was diagnosed when he was 3 or 4. He's very young. So he's had an insulin pump and just then that's just his life, right? He's used to just using his pump all the time. And so I wouldn't describe him as a healthy eater. I would say if he knew he was going to have donuts, he'd do more insulin kind of thing. And just heartbreaking for such a young guy. But he said, okay, I'm going to do this program and we'll see. I'm sure it's not going to help me because I'm type 1. And he adopted this fully and completely, which I think is important. You can't decide to do this on Monday and Wednesday and do something else on Tuesday. I truly believe that is not healthy and not safe. So you've got to go all in. So I encourage people go all in for at least 3 or 4 weeks, and you will see a difference. And then you'll just want to do it. So Chris said, okay, I'm going to do this fully for a month and then see what happens. So at the time when Chris had attended our class, he was using about 8 vials of insulin a month. And that's kind of a lot. And his cost on those vials was $200 each. And after about a month, he noticed that his insulin usage was dropping. And I saw him after 3 months after changing this, and he had dropped to 4 vials a month instead of 8. And that's a really big deal financially, especially, 4 vials, that was saving him $800 a month. But also he felt better, and he was making the connection. Oh, I feel better when I don't have to use so much insulin. Last time I saw him, he was down to, I think 2 or 3 vials a month. And that was pretty much where he kind of leveled out. And in just a remarkable story, not just financially, but all the other great things that come along with eating this way for him. He was able to lower his cholesterol, lower his blood pressure, and it also kept him low risk, right, for other diseases and complications that often come down the road for people with diabetes. I recognize diabetes is serious and is scary, but what scares me more are those long-term complications, like kidney issues, having your foot amputated. Those are the things that horrify me more than just, looking at someone's blood pressure. Blood sugar. Also, I wanted to say two more things. We have a lot of students who come to our class with neuropathy, like a lot of nerve pain and restless leg syndrome. And they have reported that eating this way, following these guidelines, they've been able to get rid of that. So I find that really encouraging. And I apologize, I don't have my book with me. I would if I was at the office. I think it used to be on the bottom of page 23 or 29. It's like a drawing of a cell in the body with the mitochondria and the fat inside the cell. In his newer edition, I think it's on a different, yes. So when I explain that to our students, that the traditional approach that we're taught, that blood sugar and all that circulating, I'm saying, but here's your problem, is your fat inside the cell. I think that's just, people get it. They're like, oh my God, I'm not addressing. This is actually my favorite one to teach. I teach cancer, Alzheimer's, food addiction, heart disease, diabetes, all of those. They're all on our website. People notice results very quickly. So it's also like personally rewarding for me. It's nice to prevent cancer and prevent Alzheimer's, but with the diabetes program, I feel like it's actionable results that you see like pretty quickly. So sorry, I'm getting so excited.
Yeah, no, you are just an exciting person, and we're both passionate about it. It's just that when you see the changes right there in front of you, I've seen them many times as well, and you think, you were aero engineer. Is that how you were saying your career, right? Okay, and I'm a musician, so neither one of us are medical doctors. We have advanced degrees, but why do we need to be doing this? Why don't doctors say this to patients? I mean, what do you think? That this information is available in medical journals? Have you ever had any insight as to why? Is it because doctors are too busy, they're not reading it, or they don't think that patients can do this, drastic change in diet? Why is it? What is your...
I that question every single class that I teach. So I think I've figured it out. One, I think there's an assumption in the medical community that it's too hard for patients to change their diet. So I do see that with doctors that I work with and talk to. Also, I think there's another perception. Well, that's not something they can control. They feel like they can control and measure the patient's medicine, but they can't control the diet, and they can't fully rely on the patient at all times to be honest about what they're eating. So that's a challenge too. But I think the underlying issue is just lack of education. In medical school, most medical schools only require doctors to take 2 hours of nutrition education. And there's just so much more than can be covered in that time. And so then it's up to the doctor to pursue and research on their own, and they get marketed to heavily, and they're just as vulnerable to marketing as people are. And if you think about the mixed messages coming in the media, doctors, they just straight up don't have time to filter through all that. But I do want to give some encouragement. For 5 years, I taught for the T. Colin Campbell program with eCornell, the plant-based nutrition certificate. And in our first class, we always ask the students, why are you here? Because so many doctors and nurses take that program, and the doctors almost always answer that they're getting questions from their patients that they don't know how to answer. And so they're there to learn. So I find that very encouraging. I think think it's a push from the patients to be able to, like they're the ones kind of, it's going from the ground up, right? Like they're pushing the doctors, and the doctors are having to get the information. But there are doctors out there who are looking for the information, who've been through the Cornell program. And I think that they actually, now they might have a search engine where you can like find a doctor who's connected to them. Also, with the growth in integrative wellness and the popularity, that requires doctors to learn more about nutrition. But ultimately, it's such a big world, such a small world with the internet now. And I think resources like PCRM and nutrition studies and .org and McDougall, it's so great and so easy now to find the good information that we don't have to rely on our doctor specifically for nutrition info.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate to say that, but that is the truth. There is no nutrition and hands-on. Like I've interviewed doctors that in the past that say we should just be taught a few classes and really how to make this food, which is simple, and but that's just not there. Tell me one thing. Have you ever had any experiences with children that had diabetes, or they were mostly adults?
Well, most of my students are adults. I have some are parents that come on behalf of their children,
right.
And it's the same response. For type 1, they notice that the medication, the insulin need goes down. And for type 2, I haven't specifically worked closely enough with kids to say that I know definitively they've been able to reverse it. But type 2 is so affected by diet. I see no reason or evidence that it wouldn't have the same effect or even faster effect on a child than it would on an adult.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. Before you go, I want to say to people here, if you have any questions for Katherine, please type it and I'll ask her. But thank you so much for doing this. And again, everybody go see the classes that Katherine has on her website. I think we filmed many, but we did not film this one because of you didn't want to do anything that would maybe, there were some videos that you had to show that were perhaps copyright or something. I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah, and it's so heavily regulated. I feel like diabetes is one where a patient really has to keep their doctor in the loop when they're changing their diet. I don't think they should keep it secret because often I see it with my students. Their blood sugar sometimes can change within days. It can drop very quickly. So if your blood sugar, is lowering and your medication is lowering your blood sugar, they need to involve their doctor. It's really good to see you. I wish I could give you a hug.
I know. I hope that to be back in Texas soon and I can see you in person. And
that would be great.
Thank you again, and all the best with your dog. I hope everything goes well. And,
okay, thank you. I'm worried about her.
I know it's your family member, but all right, Katherine. Bye. Thank you again.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Well, thank you, everyone. Katherine has such a lively personality and she's great. Another time we can have her when she's in her office, and I know the quality of the video wasn't the best, but I'm very appreciative that she did it while she's in her car waiting for news of her dog. So I remember next week we're going to get into the really how to, starting with chapter 4, and I'm going to go and get the cornbread out of the oven, and while I do that, I'll just put this in case you want to sign up. Okay, I'll be right back. Well, it looks beautiful. It's a little hot, but I think I can handle it. Look at that. Oh, now it smells divine. It is taller than the previous one that I made. And I think it's too hot to cut it, unfortunately. Let's see, I'm going to put a knife in there. I'm pretty sure it's totally cooked. Yes, it is. I'm afraid to cut it. Let's see. I'm going to attempt because I don't want I just took it right out of the oven. I believe that because I added the cream of corn to this, it took longer to cook. It didn't 15 minutes was not enough. There was more moisture with the cream of corn. So I think it was in the oven for 25 minutes. I put it on the top rack, and you might, depending on the size of your pan, you might want to watch it 20 minutes, 22, 25, and so that it doesn't burn. So even if I can get a tiny piece out, I would like to, so that I could give it a try. But whoo, it's way too hot. I'm going to burn myself. You can see the smoke. Oh, okay. I will sacrifice, and for you, I don't think I'm gonna get burned. Yes, I like my version. Okay. I like the one that in the book, obviously, a lot. It's very good. One of the times I sprinkled on the top some chili powder, and that was great too. Well, I hope you will try it, and I will see you next week. And have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.